march to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. A life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. And life sucks all of the time, stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life Podcast, everybody. Just before we start, I want to say another special thanks to our friend Clint for joining us last week. Mm-hmm. It was such an amazing talk. Such a cool individual. I highly recommend going out and checking him out on the Twitters and stuff. And he gave all his information in the last podcast. But I just wanted to say thanks again because he's such a cool guy. Definitely recommend reaching out and having a conversation with him.
Yeah, and if you're into games or just geekery in general, check out the Geek Dig podcast, which is his podcast, and he's also on the Green Up podcast. So go check those out.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Lots of fun stuff there. So, as always, my name's Jen. I will be your hostess tonight. And the co-host extraordinaire, as always, is Bryan. Hey, Bryan.
Hi.
So, how you been? How's your week been?
It's been kind of interesting. It's been fairly low key, but I'm finding that I believe I mentioned on the last one about how I had phone calls I needed to make. Like to set up some appointments. I have done none of that. I have done none of it. I know. And I need to. I really need to. Like, tomorrow I have to get, I can't keep putting these off. But anyway, that's not mainly what I was getting into, but it's just been, I don't know. It's interesting how I'm finding out that, and this will play right into our topic, is that I'm finding more and more how much of and even though we talked about this topic a while ago, being an emotional sponge and whatnot, I'm finding that I'm doing that more and more. I've really been noticing it lately, like how much people's negativity is affecting me and how bad that is for me. But I'm in a position where I can't do a lot right now to change things. So I kind of have to just deal with it, which is really difficult.
Well, something I found when I get caught up just absorbing too much negativity or too much emotion is I try to find things that counteract the emotion, kind of rinse my system clean, shall we say. Music's a great one. I know you are really into music. If you are really feeling anxiety or emotions that you're absorbing through others, try listening to music that has the opposite effect.
I'll tell you. Well, you know what? Actually, it doesn't even have to be that. There's actually, I want real quick. There was someone on Twitter the other day. I wish I had their handle but I don't remember. They tweeted, and I think I may not be 100% right, but it was something close to music is the friend that always tells you exactly what you need to hear. And I've always bought into that. Whenever I've been in a bad way, music will make me happier. But I've found, and science has found this also, that you listening to no matter what the music is, if it's something you like, will improve your mood. So even if you're in a bad place and you listen to the most depressing music, but it's stuff you love, like you're like, man, I have to listen to some Depeche Mode right now. Nah, they're not depressing, but you know what I mean? Or I got to listen to some really, the other day, honestly, before I went out with friends, I was kind of in a bumming kind of mood, I put on Slipknot on the Pandora channel, and I listened to a bunch of Slipknot. So, and that's not necessarily like pep you up music, but it was exactly what I needed at the time. And I was in a better mood after listening to a bunch of yelling and aggressive guitars. So, that's why I said, whatever the music is, that's what the science shows, is that is what you should listen to.
Yeah. And that's the thing, you need to find things and items that help you to kind of bring yourself back center.
Yeah, the problem that I run into with this is that when you go be with other people and then their negativity or whatever influences you, the first instinct is to, like, you want to get away from it. Well, to get away from it and then listen to my music, I'm isolating myself to do this, and it's not running away. It's it's strategic retreat is what it is, and
yeah,
but
and
it's
okay.
Yeah. But when you're trying to put yourself into a position to be a little more social and whatever, and then you end up isolating because of that, it's kind of like in your head, the first thing you think of is, well, this was counterproductive.
Yeah. And it's really not.
Yeah.
It's really not. If you were avoiding the social setting,
yeah,
to do nothing but listen to music and retreat,
yeah,
then no, or you're preemptive retreating, shall we say?
Yes.
That's the negative.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are pushing yourself outside your comfort zone,
yeah,
for a little bit, and then retreating back to your comfort zone to recoup, and then go back out again. That's awesome. I think that's a perfect way of balancing.
Yeah.
Of understanding what you need and making that work. And it's tough. I think anyone with roommates can openly admit how difficult it is when you're living with another adult. And when you're living with them, their emotional moods, even if you're not in the same room, you can feel their emotions throughout the house.
Right.
And it's very difficult because, especially if you're very sensitive to other people's emotions and kind of sponge them up, it's really tough being with a roommate like that.
Well, and then, so there was that, and then, I went out Saturday with some friends, and the whole night, I had this feeling of, the best way I can think of to describe it would be how a lot of people see like an out-of-body experience. That you're aware of everything, you're still experiencing everything, but you're not really there, kind of a thing. Like,
you couldn't find anything to connect you to the time and place.
Yeah, I mean, really, and that's the thing is, it's, it was a little bit of a dissociation, that I don't know, it's so odd. And this isn't because of anyone there or anything. It was just, I almost just felt like I didn't belong. And, and like I said, it wasn't that anyone made me feel that way. It was just, on the whole night, I just felt like I was just shadowing, kind of a thing. Like, it was just so weird. I don't know. Like, the whole night, I just had an off feeling to me. And it just, I don't know. It was kind of weird because, as the night went on, the group we were with shrunk because it was not a large group. It was, 11 people, 10 people originally, which is, a little outside my comfort zone, but whatever. And then as the night went on, it shrunk down. And then we had some other friends meet up with us much later at a different place. And, and it, to the same point, like of the whole feeling like you don't belong kind of a thing. Well, then they started talking about a beer festival that's this weekend. And one of them that were there that I haven't known very long, like offered to pay for my ticket so that I could go because he wants me there. So I'll hang out with him. And I was like, it's amazing. It's always amazing when, and I've talked about this before, it's always amazing how you find out how much people want you somewhere, that they're willing to do this or to do that so that you can, they're like, well, I'll take your excuses away. Will you still come? It's like, well, yeah, I guess that's, I couldn't go because I couldn't afford it. Well, here you go. Now that's not a problem. Do you want to go? Like, if I remove the can't afford it, do you want to go? Well, yeah, because it'll probably be a good time, so, but it's so weird like that. And then Tuesday, my nephew calls me and says, hey, he's like, you should, come outside. And I was like, outside? And he's like, it's nice. We, stand on the porch and talk. I was like, all right, cool, So I go outside, and he hands me a poster and goes, here, have a poster. And it's a Star Wars one from the new video game that came out.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, cool, And I was like, you don't want it? He's like, whatever. So I was like, all right, cool, So... And we're talking and all this, and he's like, and I was like, so did you get Battlefront, the new Star Wars game? And he's like, yeah, and I was like, oh, cool. I was like, you should like it. I played the beta, and we talked for a while. It was cool, and then he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go home and throw it in because with the games in the new systems, they have a download file that no matter what the game is, there's a download file for the game now. And so he's like, I'm going to do that, and then, whatever. I was like, oh, cool. I was like, let me know how you like it. And he was like, well, I figured you'd be doing the same thing, and boom, hands me a copy of the game.
Aww.
And I was like, what? He's like, Merry Christmas. And I was like, dude, that's awesome, thank you. So, like I said, I had these two things happen, which are both, I'm putting that as my wins for the week, because both things made me feel... appreciated. Like, the people want me to be part of something. He bought me that game so him and I could play the game together, So, I mean, yeah, it's a selfish reason, but that's fine.
Now, what I think...
I'm kidding, yeah.
Right, but what I think is the most rewarding and amazing thing from both of those interactions is the fact that others see so much value in you.
Yeah.
And nothing else.
Skype's gonna do this again.
Skype hates me.
Yeah, it does.
In your humor, in your personality, in you as an individual, as a person, people will pay money.
Yeah, right.
Hard-earned money to be around you.
Yeah.
But yet you struggle with understanding and knowing your own value.
Yeah, exactly. But it's very typical of somebody who has
got mental
illnesses. Yeah, is that you don't see, value in yourself, and it's nice because you see that stuff and you start going, well, if other people have this value in me, see this in me, and you always, as a person. That, there's always the can't see the forest for the trees element. You're so deep in the depression that, of course, you're not going to see value and worth. But when other people outside you are telling you this or showing you this, either way, it's not just that they have to buy me something for me to see it. It's how disappointed people sound if I'm not going to be at something. Or, oh, man, you should have been there. And I keep hearing that comment of, man, I wish you were there. Those kind of things. And it's like... It's amazing to hear from people, a good ego. I mean, a good shot to the ego is, good, can be really good.
The thing is, I don't think those comments have always been there.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, I don't think you truly were able to accept them.
Yeah. Well, what it comes down to is that you end up, you don't believe them because in your head you skew them. Like, oh, they're just saying that, they're saying it because I'm here, kind of a thing. Or,
right.
Who doesn't, oh, man, you should have came out with us Friday. You say that, like, oh, you should have called me, I'd help you move. Like, it's the same. That's the way it plays in your head, even though that's, and again, that'll be our topic for the evening. You'll notice the theme of this. Yeah. That's your mind distorting the truth. And that's how, then you process it. Because it's easier to process because you're already used to, you already filtered negativity so that you filter it to that point and then you allow it in.
It's also a protection.
Yeah.
Because by accepting that people think you are an awesome person that enjoy being around you, there is some expectation there.
Yeah.
But if you're wrong, you could look really, really foolish.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Because we've all seen those people.
Right.
The overconfident ones.
And honestly, you and I don't want to justify negativity, but I have seen people that other people will invite basically just to laugh at them. And I don't mean that in a flattering way.
Right.
To where you're like, hey, so-and-so's going to be here. Let's see if we can get him stupid drunk, and then he'll do dumb things. Ha, ha, ha. Kind of a thing. In a, basically, you're in a mean way, but that person doesn't know that when you're laughing, it's not,
Right. So it is an aspect of putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Accepting, Kano mentioned when he was on, when someone puts themselves out there to give you a compliment, you are also putting yourself out there by accepting it.
Yeah.
It's a mutual trust thing.
Yeah.
And I had a really hard time with that when I was younger. I've gotten much better with it as I'm getting older, but it's still very tough. I can't tell you what a jerk I was to different men and different boyfriends that asked me out, because I asked them if they were kidding, because I truly thought they were kidding.
Yeah.
I thought they were playing a bad joke on me.
Right.
Not understanding.
Dang it.
That they were really interested out on some really amazing people, because of my confidence was so incredibly low that I couldn't even fathom that someone would want to ask me out.
Like, why do you want me? Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like, are you kidding? You've got to be kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Not, you've got to be kidding like I would date you.
Yeah.
You've got to be kidding that you date me.
Right, yeah.
And so it comes across quite differently sometimes than it's what it's meant.
Right. Oh, speaking of, and I don't want to go into a full dating thing, but we'll see how this plays out. But I just want to throw it out there that Clint informed me that because of the app he brought up during the show last week.
Yes, he was talking with that girl.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, no, a different app. Like, he reactivated an app so he could read something to us or whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, he got a date off of it.
Please tell me it was the science fiction girl that was going to message afterwards.
I do not know. I haven't had a chance to fully talk to him about it, but
Clint,
whatever.
Let us know if
he will. Yeah.
Yes, if it is the science fiction girl, I think it was the Star Wars girl.
Yeah.
That you were going to message as soon as you got off Skype with us.
Yeah.
If that's the girl you got a date with, let me know.
I'm
loving this.
I just wanted to update people, and as he's like, if it goes well, I'll give you guys all the credit, and I was like, sweet, and it's like, if it wasn't us, I just pretty much be like, hey, no one told you to go ask anybody out. No,
that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I interrupted. You mentioned the dating thing, and I forgot I meant to mention that at the beginning of the show. I forgot.
Right. No, that's cool.
That's Clint's win for the week, potentially, then. No. If it goes badly, then maybe not, but whatever.
Hey, anytime you get a chance to meet somebody new, even if they're a complete jerk. It's way where it wanted it to, but you still put yourself out there, so it's a win.
Seriously, Skype just has to know that, like, right as you're about to make your point, it's like, oh, let's put a 5-second gap there.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's cut out some important words that she's saying.
Yeah. Again, if you ever needed proof that I don't edit the show, the last 2 weeks will be your proof.
2 weeks? I think it's closer to 3.
Well, no, I'm just saying, well, whatever. Yeah. Just all the, like, those pauses, because I'm not going to go through and cut them. There's too many to cut out. It's just... Yeah. I'd spend hours doing it, and I'm not going to bother.
Well, I guess that's our I don't want to say drinking game, because I don't want to encourage people to drink that much. But that's our game. Fill in Jen's words.
Yeah, every time Skype pauses Jen, take a shot. Yeah, that's a terrible idea.
No. Every time Jen pauses, go ahead and fill in your own word.
Right.
It's like one of those the fill-ins.
Yeah.
Or the...
Like a Mad Libs kind of a thing.
Oh, whatever they call it. There we go. It's the... I'm going to use the wrong name.
Yep.
It's the Crazy Lives Mad Libs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that'll work. Choose your own adventure, whatever you want to call it.
I like it.
So,
life is a choose your own adventure.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
or let's make a deal, depending on which way you look
Yeah, true enough, yeah.
Behind door number 1, door number 2, or the mystery box.
Yeah. Never pick the mystery box. It's just always a bad idea.
No, never pick. It's too small. There's never anything.
Yeah. Well, it could be a gift card. I mean, they could have, a gigantic gift card in there or something, or a stack of $100 bills.
Yeah, I have seen stacks of money in there before. But.
So,
anyways, we digress. We completely...
Right. So anyway, let's that wraps up my stuff. So
okay.
how was your week? Because I know
Well, it was actually it was really good. It was very, very, very relaxing. I went to Florida to visit my mom, and my best friend came with me, which was awesome. Whenever I visit Florida, I become an old person.
Well, I think part of that has to do with where your parents live in Florida.
Right.
Because it's not it's not really a hip, bustling community. It's a hip busting community, maybe. But
yes. I will say it's between Sarasota and a town called Venice. And there is a lot of young people there. And there is a lot of young stuff to do. But obviously, my parents are not hip on the young stuff.
I will tell you this. When we were there, what I noticed there were a lot of is, what do you call them? Like specialists. Like as far as like orthopedic type specialists. There's a lot.
Lots of specialists.
Yeah.
But there are but you got to look in certain places.
Right.
Like Siesta Key is right there. And Siesta Key has a ton of young people.
Yeah.
And Sarasota has a couple colleges and art colleges and stuff. So, I mean, there are young people. You just have to know where to go. Where my mom's at, where my mom's house is at, in the little community that she's in, is pretty much a geriatric community.
Yeah.
So my best friend, who's 10 years younger than I am, I tried to prepare her for it, but I don't think she quite understood.
Yeah.
She might have thought I was joking when I said bed by like 8, 9 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And she's in Denver, so Florida is 2 hours behind where she's at.
Ahead.
So 8 o'clock Florida time is 6 o'clock her time.
Yeah. And another pause, damn it.
So at one point we were watching a movie or a TV show. It was like 8:30. Both my mom and I are asleep on the couches.
Yeah.
She's watching the show. The show ends. She gets up. She's like, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
So she goes in the bedroom to go do her own thing. But anyways, we ended up having a really great time. I got tons of sleep, played some cards. We did drink a lot, which really threw my medicine off, and I'm paying the price today for it.
Again, and that's important for us to always point out is how much it actually does that. And it really does affect you. Like, it's really, like, we make those decisions. I shouldn't say we, because I'm not on an antidepressant currently.
Right.
But, like I did when I was on an antidepressant. So, and you really pay for it. Like, again, it's the emotional hangover is so much worse than the drinking hangover. Like, when you're on these medicines, the hangover from the medicine not working right is so much worse.
And I drank multiple days in a row. Many drinks, multiple days in a row.
Yeah.
So today was my first day without alcohol because I had to go to work. And
that doesn't stop some people.
Right. I have not had any alcohol today, to which all day today, someone smiles at me. I'm elated. Somebody frowns at me. I'm sad. And it just, and for no apparent reason. No apparent whatsoever.
Well, there is though. Like,
right.
You know what I mean?
There's mental reasons why.
Yeah.
I mean, my everything's out of control.
Yeah,
right
you're
now.
bipolar, and your medicine has now been negated for a couple days, so it's going to, there is a reason for this stuff. You're not just acting crazy here. This is
right.
This is certified crazy.
I have to keep that in my head.
Yeah.
So that, whenever, because you'll catch yourself. I'm like, God, I feel like junk. What am I supposed to? Oh, I did this to myself. That's right.
Now, that's the smart way of looking at it because, theoretically you would learn from that. We both know you won't, but theoretically, you would learn from that.
Yes. Talk to me after my New Orleans trip.
Yeah.
Over New Year's. Yeah, that's going to be complete, non-alcohol fest. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, luckily, there's not much alcohol in New Orleans.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty much a dry city, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
No, the streets are wet there. I mean, it's
rivers of gunk.
Yeah, you can make a variety of jokes off of that. Some are very bad taste, and others are just awful. Yeah,
you don't ask.
Yeah,
you just stay out of the river. Right. Don't ask what it is. Just
and the gutters. Yeah,
and the gutters. Oh yeah. But anywho, so I think for the next couple days, I'm gonna be kind of on a little emotional roller coaster, and kind of good that the fiance is working tonight and working tomorrow night.
Yeah.
I will say one thing I do have to watch is tomorrow night I'm supposed to go to a casino with a couple friends, and we're spending the night there and then getting massages the next day, which is going to be wonderful, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I'm really going to have to watch my moods.
Right.
Because I have a feeling I'll probably have some alcohol.
I was just going to say, yeah, especially if you have alcohol, because that's going to prolong it even more.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will say both of the women I'm going with know about my situation. They've not been around me when I've not been.
I was going to say, you should probably tell them, just, fair warning kind of a thing.
Yeah. I mean, I've already kind of given them heads up because of the wedding and stuff, but I might, give them a few other little pointers. But, yeah, I mean, they've never really been around me when I've been unbalanced. I'm doing pretty well holding it together just because I recognize what's going on, versus in the past and stuff, I haven't been able to understand what's happening. So having that forethought, when I catch myself going too loopy, I either force myself to kind of be quiet because, what's going on in my head is not normal.
Right.
And I kind of have to tell myself that. They're like,
and it's interesting because, like...
It makes sense now. But
yeah. Well, no, like with the topic we're going to get to here in a few minutes, it's amazing how this stuff applies to your situation in a different way, but it's still the same stuff, but it's a different application of it, than mine is. So, yeah. So,
but it was cool. I mean, and nothing beats... mom love, and mom caring for me. I wish everybody had a mom as awesome as mine.
Yeah. And
I hope that you all do. And if you don't, I'm sorry. I wish I could share her more.
Yeah.
Because she is so sweet, so understanding, and so loving, and just she just really makes me feel very special. And I'm very, very, very fortunate to have her in my life.
She's very much a safe place for you.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, we have our problems, we have our issues.
Yeah.
Shoot, she calls me obese. We got our problems. Trust me.
Yeah.
But
like, you don't have doctor in front of your name. You don't get that right.
Right, exactly.
You call me fat like everyone else.
Exactly.
No, I'm kidding.
Gosh darn it.
Yeah.
You don't get to use that O word. But, so we have our issues.
Yeah.
But the fact is that regardless of anything, I know she's there for me. And just, I mean, she's never met my friend before. She opened her house, opened her life, opened her arms.
That's totally your mom, yeah. My mom's the same way, just, just totally giving like that. Huh?
Yeah, it's like, if I have it, it's yours.
Yep.
And they're just incredible giving. And it's hard for me sometimes to even understand, because people say that I'm very giving, and I like to be. I hope I consider that way. But I still, it amazes me to the extent that some people can go.
Yes.
And I hope to achieve that at some point, to be that open.
Yeah.
To be able to just completely open myself up to people and just
it's kind of like
them.
With my mom, like for years and years, she had nothing to give. She was in such a bad way financially that even feeding her kids day to day was really, really difficult. Like not eating herself at times so the kids could get a little something and whatever, because her ex-husband, wouldn't pay her any child support, and she was working, she was on welfare, but it still wasn't enough. And, she went through all that, and now, like, if she has something and you're like, wow, that smells good, or sounds good, she'd hand it to you. Like, you'd think, because nature, so many people that are that way turn out to be the type that don't give anything away because they're like, well, I don't know if I'll need it. you know, and it's not that they become cold or mean. It's just that you start going, well, I never could give this stuff away. So now that I have a little extra, it's like, you know, you're like, I'm going to keep it just in case something happens. And she's not that way. It's nope, here, you know, it's mind blowing how that didn't affect her that way, you know?
Well, I think something that I read somewhere, I don't remember where it was. And, you know, I wish I could credit them.
Cocktail napkin. Yeah.
Yes. Cocktail napkin, probably. Most likely, you know, a little salty,
right?
But, and it actually has to do with a definition of heaven and hell, to which, you know, we won't go into the religious aspects of that, but they say that the difference between heaven and hell is one small thing. The picture of both in heaven and hell are a long table with people lined up on either side. Everyone has a giant fork, and there's bountiful food in the middle of the table. Exact same layout for heaven and hell. The difference is the people in hell try to feed themselves, but the forks are too big, so they starve. The people in heaven see the forks feed each other across the table, and they live happy. And it always, whenever I think to that, it always reminds me that it's all about the perspective. And just by looking at a situation in another direction, instantly from being an incredible negative, you know, to something incredibly positive.
Right.
Not to mention how simple. How often do we get stuck in our own mindset and our own perspective that something as simple as, oh my God, this fork won't fit in my mouth, but it can reach across the table.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
We completely miss something incredibly simple because we're so self-absorbed and we're stuck in our own heads and our own perspective in our own worlds. So it just kind of hits me on a few different levels that when I stop and I think about it, I'm like, you know, how true that is, that by opening ourselves up, sometimes we gain more than we could possibly ever gain by closing ourselves off.
Yeah, exactly. It's really the difference between the two is the reward that like your mom and my mom get is the emotional reward, and the people who, like in my mom's case, where if you became, I don't want to say a hoarder, but you know, somebody who holds on to all of your stuff, you get a financial reward essentially out of it, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, like you said, it's like which perspective, which road do you take when the, you know, you know, so yeah, it's
who's richer. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You can argue that forever, you know, and never be wrong or right, honestly.
Yeah.
You know, or be both actually. You'd probably be wrong and right. Either side you argue, you could be pointed at and told you're wrong or right. So whatever.
Exactly. But that kind of does a little intro into what you were talking about today.
Yeah.
A little loose intro, but...
Yeah, because I've been talking about it for the past few weeks because of some sheets I was given by my psychologist. And also I have an appointment set for a psychiatrist, but I couldn't get in until... I think I'm going in on New Year's Eve.
Nice!
Yeah, my choices were Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. And I was like... I don't know. I guess New Year's Eve because there's less going on with people, you know.
Guess it's a way to start the new year out, right?
I guess, yeah. I was surprised they're even open, you know, but whatever.
Ask me if you're going to need smaller hat.
Yeah, probably not. Good luck shrinking this head. No. Anyway, she gave me a few packets actually, and I think. Like, today we're going to just talk about, well, one's just a sheet, but we're going to talk about this one, and it's all under the same umbrella, which is cognitive distortions, which are, instead of seeing and choosing things based on fact, your brain is distorting the truth to where you actually end up making, essentially, you know, the biggest problem with depression and anxiety is you tend to make fear-based decisions. You tend to fear the worst. You tend to this and that, you know, and that's why you base your decisions on that, not actually what's right in front of you. And that's what this kind of stuff is. So I figure we'll go through this sheet here and we can talk a little bit. There's 15 on here, and each one's got a little snippet to explain it. And like I said, we can kind of, you know, whatever along the way. The first one is filtering, which is looking only at one part of a situation to the exclusion of everything else. I guess the way you look at that is it's like you see the losses, but you don't see the wins. Kind of a thing. Like, and I'm very guilty of that. That type of a thing. And
it's like looking through binoculars. You can only see that little bit.
Well,
you see it really clearly, but it's only that one little bit.
Now, I will also say this, and my psychologist pointed this out to me, and since getting these, I've been paying attention to other people that don't have mental illnesses, or that I don't know have mental illnesses, and ones I do, and wow, do these appear in so many people. There are a lot of these that as we go through these, like if you had this sheet and you kept it with you, you would notice it a lot. And I'm sure a lot of people, like especially in a workplace, I bet you'd see it even more because people tend to have a more negative slant at work, because it's just they perceive it as, heaping on kind of a thing. So anyway, number 2 is polarized thinking. Perceiving everything at the extremes, either black and white with nothing in between, great or horrible, no in between. So you either win or lose, like there's no middle game,
I've heard you refer to the world being black and white.
Yes.
Quite a lot.
And now, keep in mind, last week, remember when I made that comment that I see myself as a person who makes factual choices based on logic, and I realized that over time I've not been. And what part of that is in the black and white thinking, which is either things are either right or wrong, and those decisions, making decisions on that, what you do find is, again, you find that the world pretty much works in the gray area. Like, most of the world is not black or white. It's in the middle, and you can change this to so many things. You can go, polarized thinking is how people see politics. There's Republican or Democrat. Well, most of us actually fall in the middle. They don't fall one way or the other. Like aside from maybe sports teams, kind of a thing. Like, Ohio State, Michigan play in a couple weeks here. It's like there's no middle ground for most people in this area. It's Ohio State or Michigan. There's no, I just hope for a good game, Right. Or very little, I should say. But anyway. That one's one that you'll notice probably more people using than anything else is the polarizing thing. And it doesn't have to be black and white, but you'll notice that people will pull to one extreme or the other. It's, and if you're paying attention, especially on Facebook right now and again, I'm not getting into this or my opinions, but if you look at how people are looking at the Syrian refugee concept, polarized thinking, and, it's the same, like I said, you can apply this in so many ways, and most of the time, if you catch people doing this, you'll realize that they're skewing the truth. That the truth really isn't one or the other. Again, there's a middle ground. So, try to be aware of that. That one's a hard one to change, because a lot of the world kind of points you that way to, well, no, that's right, that there's right or wrong, because really that's how our laws work. You're right until a certain point, then it's wrong. So it's
right.
Excuse me. The next one's overgeneralization, reaching a broad generalized conclusion based on just one piece of evidence, and this is another one you'll see a lot of. This is the old you get up and, you see that your car has a flat. Oh, it's the worst day ever. Nothing ever goes right for me.
My car's a hunk of junk.
Yeah, exactly. It's, you take things from being a problem and you just blow it up. It's like, okay, slow down. Like, this is not the worst thing that's ever happened, And this was one that I think a lot of people with depression have an issue with. Because you tend to, over time, everything is the worst thing ever. Because you just expect the worst, so then you become, this again. Of course, like you just blow stuff up, and most people are like, yeah, it sucks, but could be a lot worse, Which again, I understand, with it could be worse. There's always the, yeah, but it could be better.
Right.
So, the next one is mind reading. This is one I'm very guilty of, and one that, again, you'll see a lot of people are guilty of. Basing assumptions and conclusions on your ability to know other people's thoughts. That's, oh, well, if I go, they're just going to think this and blah, blah. Or if I don't go to something, people are just going to talk about me the whole time and blah, 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 blah. I'm actually running through this right now because of Thanksgiving, and it's going to be too many people, and I'm not going. And I know it ahead of time. There's no ifs, ands, or buts to it. And, it's in the past, I've been more like, well, I should go, because if I don't, then they're gonna this. Don't care this year. It's too many people. I know it. It's going to mess with my mental health. Not going. And anybody, it's your family. Save it. Does.
I see them on different occasions.
Nope.
We're good.
No. Not to mention using that's a form of guilting me into changing my decision. And I'm choosing based on my mental health, nothing else. So, and that's not projecting. There's nothing there. There's going to be potentially 28 people. Too many for me. I know this. I've been around a smaller group, and it's pushed me to my limit. I know that that's going to be just too much,
Fair enough.
So whatever. And the food's not, it's not enough to overcome my mental health,
Something that was really, really hard for me and hard for me to handle wasn't you not being able to go to things. It was you not being able to make the decision not to go to things.
Yeah.
So I was constantly in the dark until the very last minute.
I know. And the reason for that is because that's literally when most of the time I made the decision.
I know.
Because I was fighting with myself the whole time.
And I knew that's what it was, but it just, if you say no, like you just did.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is going to be too much for me. I know it's not going to be a good place for me to be.
Yeah.
I apologize, but I cannot do this. Done.
But
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Get it. And if people don't respect it, say, pretty much they're the asshole because, excuse my language, folks. But, if they can't accept that, that's not on you anymore because you let the rules out.
Right. And that was the thing is that it was never really about other people. It was mostly about just the internal conflict. And it's awful. Like, it stinks. Like, people think that, they don't realize that, like, Thanksgiving's it's a week from today, from where we're recording.
Right.
Well, I found the numbers and stuff out, a week and a half, almost 2 weeks, now, like you said, normally I would have spent those 2 weeks agonizing over this, like, should I go? Yeah, I really should go. It's a family and it's Thanksgiving and I just beating myself up for 2 weeks. And like, now it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not doing it. It's too much for me. I know it. I'm just throwing the towel in. And maybe I should put myself out there and test it and blah, blah, but I'm just not going to. It's not.
Maybe next year.
I'm not at a place. Yeah. I'm tired of beating myself up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely get it. And, I remember moments that you were literally in tears. We were both in tears.
Yeah.
Because you so wanted to make me happy.
Yeah.
You so wanted to go to make me happy, but you couldn't physically go.
Yeah.
And we were both in tears, both incredibly upset, incredibly frustrated because we both understand each other's positions, but there's no compromise. There's no way of meeting the middle.
Right. And no decisions were made flippantly or anything, it's like, no, it's like, and you realize that you knew that whole time because essentially, I would be voicing it to you, the conflict. And the whole time you're like, nobody thinks that way. It's not, and it's like, but, but in my head, that's real. And that's the whole point of these sheets is looking at this now and going, nope, I'm not giving that power. I'm going to stop this. And don't get me wrong, I have been far from perfect since getting these sheets, but I'm noticing it much sooner and I am actively trying It's really, really, really hard. I'm 37 years old. I've been thinking essentially this way off and on, and it's gotten worse for the last 25 years. 2/3 of my life, I've been thinking this way. You know, like, so to untrain that and retrain, you know, to a better way is horribly difficult.
Right.
It's like, you know,
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. So that's why I figured, you know, that's part of why I wanted to share these is so other people, and I'm sure you can find all sorts of lists of, you know, if you type in cognitive distortions, you know, online, I'm sure you can find a bunch of these. Or if you're in therapy, I'm sure your therapist probably has already given you a sheet or can provide one. Anyway, the next one is shoot, where was I? There's I can't even pronounce it. Catastrophizing. There we go. Whew. Turning everything into a catastrophe, always expecting the worst case scenario. Kind of an overlap, like I said, like with the car tire. You wake up, you see you have a flat. Oh, this is the worst day ever. This is the, you know, and it's like, no, you have a flat tire. Like, you know. So that one's one. There are a lot of people that do that too. That one I think is more of a symptom of, part of it's kind of our language now. You know, like it goes back to like the comic book guy on The Simpsons. You know, everything to him is worst whatever ever, you know, and it's like, no, it's not, you know, and, but that's become more of a, you know, the internet has kind of blown that up, you know, and part of it, most of it is joking, you know.
What's the word for that? There's an actual word that means
like for this.
Yeah, for not exaggerating, or embellishing, but it's something along those lines for taking something and making it a whole nother level, you know.
Well, like overgeneralization is kind of what it is. I know that's not the word you're looking for, but this one and overgeneralization have a real overlap. But yeah, it's very much, like I said, this one I think tends to fall more into people that either are being ironic about it, you know, like the millennials kind of concept. Like if you watch At Midnight with Chris Hardwick, he does it all the time. And he's joking when he does it. I think that's how most people do it now, but they don't realize the problem with that is that since everyone's crying wolf, you can't tell who's actually crying, you know, like who actually is someone who needs the help. But yeah, that one's one that if you catch yourself doing, again, if you're being joking about it, whatever, you know. But you do have to be careful because there's a lot of elements in when you joke. There is a lot of truth sometimes in those things. You know, like I do a lot of self-deprecating stuff. There's a reason for that. You know what I mean? Like you don't hear a lot of positive people doing a lot of self-deprecating stuff. You know what I mean? Think about the people who are the most positive in your life. Do you hear them running themselves down joke form? Occasionally, but not all the time. Right. I do it all the time. Yeah. So there's elements of the esteem stuff in there. Anyway, the next one is personalization. Interpreting everything around you in ways that reflect on you and often your self-worth. You know, that makes sense. You know, like the first thing that pops into my head is Hermes' song from Rudolph. The Why Am I Such a Misfit, or I don't know the name of the song, but I think that's it, you know, and he's just destroying himself in this song, essentially, you know, and it kind of, I think that's kind of what that is it's like everything's my fault. Everything's, of course I did this, you know, like, you know, of course this happened to me, you know, it's, you bring an element of yourself into that, or bring an element of the failures or whatever into yourself. And generally, it's not on successes. It's usually on failures, you know?
Right. No, I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
And again, a lot of people do that because they take things personally. And they do make things, you've pointed it out at work, how even though something was not a criticism of you, it was a criticism of something. And then you made it about you, basically. which elevates the problem, So.
Yeah, it does.
Right. So I said some of these elements, like I said, you've talked about some of these too. And I know, like I said, almost every one of these, because the first thing the psychologist told me is she's like, I want you to look through these and think about how many of them you've done yourself. And when I went back in, she's like, so what do you think? And I'm like, yeah, I pretty much can check all of these. And she was like, I'm not surprised. It's pretty typical of people that are depressed and anxious that they will. Yeah. So
these all sound familiar. Yep.
Yeah. Well, plus, like she said, she's like, the quote normal person could check off a good, a certain amount of these. So if you start with that and then add depression and anxiety, it's like if the normal person has, let's say 5 of these. I don't know. I'm just throwing a number. Well, okay. Well, the depressed person's going to have those 5 probably, and then they're going to add 2 or 3 more, and then anxiety adds 2 or 3 more. Well, now you're at 10 of the 15 or whatever, So
exactly.
This one, actually, this was more of. I think I spoke a little on the personalization. This is more of what I was thinking of. Control fallacies. Feeling either that the events in your life are totally controlled by an outside force or that you are responsible for everything.
Right.
I'm trying to think how to word this because, you can make religious angles on this, or my boss does all this to me, or my wife never this, or my husband, like you could. Karma, exactly.
Me.
Yeah.
The man's fault.
Well, it is the man's fault. Never trust the man or Whitey.
Or literally, if you're a female, it's the man's fault.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's this phallocentric society,
Yeah.
Like so many people do that. Well, society makes this and this happen. It's like, no, society doesn't actually. It's how you interpret what's out there, because otherwise everybody would behave accordingly. We would all behave the same way if society had that kind of influence. But anyway, or you're responsible for everything. That one's one that I think happens a lot with people. Like, you just keep messing up and you just blame yourself for stuff that's really not your fault. Like, if you went to bed early on the night your dad died and you thought, beat yourself up for a couple of years over thinking that if you were awake, you would have saved him. Those sort of things.
Sounds familiar for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Rings a bell.
That was actually one my therapist pointed out to me. So, the next one, this is one that this starts when you were a child and doesn't go away for a lot of people, which is the fallacy of fairness. Judging people's actions by rules that you've concocted about what is and what isn't fair.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, it still sucks, though, when something's not fair in your mind.
Of course.
It just sucks so bad.
Yeah, of course it does, yeah. But,
when you feel you're being cheated.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I hate that feeling.
And what's funny, though, is that a lot of people will feel they're being cheated, but they don't realize that they aren't. That maybe they didn't work as hard as the other person for a promotion. Or maybe their attitude isn't as good, or, there's elements. And I know I've seen elements of people that are, affirmative action screwed me out of this. And I'm like, did it though? Like, I'm more qualified. I'm like, are you sure you were? Because maybe that person just goes in and doesn't give a lot of guff. They do the job and they do a good, haven't had any complaints. Like, can you 100% know their record and can compare? If that's the case, I guess it's not fair, but otherwise it's like, it may not have anything to do with someone's skin color at that point, and really, they can make more of a claim that something's not fair than you can, because racism, but,
Yeah, I mean...
But that's one, that's just one I've seen a lot, is people will point,
sure. Well, I mean, one that I just experienced the other day is we have a new phone system that's keeping track of phone calls. Mm-hmm. Who takes how many phone calls, how long you're on the phone call, blah, 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 all the metrics.
Yeah.
Well, there was a person in my group that felt that she was taking an unfair amount. That she really felt that, she just was getting all these calls and stuff and was just getting very frustrated at the whole situation. Well, the numbers came out today. turns out we're all pretty darn even. In fact, I'm slightly higher than her.
Mm-hmm.
Very slightly.
Mm-hmm.
Not enough to really make any difference
right.
whatsoever. But it became very clear that what she felt and what she perceived was an issue.
That's a perfect example.
Right.
That's because
what she perceived to be the issue really wasn't. It just so happened that the calls came at an opportune time for her.
Right.
Or whatever it was, something, situation made her feel like it was a lot worse than it was.
Right, like you said, just the perception of it, or she maybe she just gets overwhelmed easier than everybody else, or I was reading something the other day about whether or not kidney stones actually are more painful than childbirth, kind of a thing. And the woman that they were talking to, that's, I don't know what the term for it is, but an expert in pain and whatnot. She's some doctor anyway. She said that the problem with even doing this study is that men and women perceive pain differently. That women are more sensitive to pain than men are, and as a result, she's like, we can't. There's no even floor, so we can't actually judge from that point, basically. And she's like, we can't even compensate because, again, from person to person, pain is felt differently. So to this person, kidney stones might be the most painful thing that's ever existed, and the same person could give birth and go, it wasn't that bad. But to this, the next person could have the same two things and go, she's like, even going woman to woman that have had both, she's like, we can't compare them, and it's kind of like this, for if you and her have the same amount of phone calls and you're like, it wasn't that bad, and she's like, oh my God, like ripping her hair out and stuff. It's like, it's just how you perceived and handled that stress, so.
Or the outside forces. I mean, I'm sure there's other things going on. Maybe she was working on a bunch of really hard orders, and those calls kept interrupting her when she was trying to focus.
Or maybe one of her calls was maybe they were a jerk. Maybe she gets more jerks on the phone than the others. Who knows? And that's a dice roll.
Many things.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many different factors that can be taken into consideration and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so important that we don't just automatically look to ourselves or pinpoint on one other person.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's always been tough. Like, I've always hated when you see that. And I've been guilty of it, too. Like, I'll see somebody, like, everybody kind of gets that, like, it's almost like a jealousy thing in a way. It's like, well, lucky you get to go draw the new Avengers book for Marvel. Well, I put the work in and blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but there was something about them that they like better. That's not unfair. Yeah. You both put your wares out. Maybe they worked a little harder than you. Maybe they're just a hair, and I mean a hair, better than you at drawing backgrounds. That's all it takes. When you can have, how many times in life you see on TV shows like the competition shows where they're like, man, you two, it's like splitting hairs, but we had to, they have to go down to such a minute level sometimes. Like, it's not about fair at that point. You're just like, this person fits what we want, And I know this isn't so much about jobs and stuff. This is just more about, some people just draw positive stuff to them, and other people seem to draw negativity to them, even if they have the same disposition, like the same thought kind of people. Some people just can't get out of their own way, True. And they'll just, it's just not fair. How come they win the lottery? How come they, and so I don't know, whatever. That one's one that I don't know. It's like, if it comes to a work thing or something, like, well, why does that person get the teacher's praise? It's like, well, they're putting the work in. Like, I think I've always been pretty good at recognizing who does and doesn't do the work. Like, I've never gone, well, I should have got this because then you know me well enough to know I will constantly say, I know I don't put the work into my art to be at the level that in my head I think I can be. I have said that countless times.
Right. But I also believe that you're much harder on yourself than
you for sure.
should be.
100%. Yeah. No question.
Right.
So, anyway, the next one is emotional reasoning. The belief that everything you feel must be true. And boy, is that a dangerous one. And the other thing I kind of feel with this too, I almost kind of feel like there's another element to this that's also this like everything you're feeling not only is true, but is right. And, you know, to where, like, if other people don't agree, you're kind of like, no, because it's like, well, dude, that's how you feel. This is a perception thing, you know?
Or you automatically assign your feelings to everyone else.
Yeah.
Because I feel this way, everyone must feel this way.
Right, exactly.
It is my responsibility to speak on behalf of the group.
Right. And we're not even talking about opinions here. We're just talking about, like, feelings, like emotions and stuff.
Exactly.
It's, you know... And you know what this kind of comes to, in a way, is like it could be. We've talked on here about not judging people when they lose someone, you know, and that kind of a thing. Like, well, why aren't you sadder? You know, like I'm devastated, and it's like, well, yeah, but there's this, and this. You know, well, yeah, but aren't you? You know, like how can you be so uncaring? And it's like. You know, like that kind of a thing. It's like you don't feel the same way I do, so you're wrong essentially. And it's like, no, we all process
judging
different.
Me because I don't process the same way you do. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said a minute ago, we all process pain differently, emotional and physical. I'm sure. I guess I can't say that. I'm not a doctor that's done some studies on it, but you know what I mean. It's like it's
right.
Plausible at least. Let's see, where was I? The next one's fallacy of change. The assumption that other people will change to suit you if you pressure them enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know I do that one a lot.
Yeah, I know I do that one a lot too. Most of actually, mine's a little different than this one. We'll get to mine in a couple steps here.
Gotcha.
But I do this one, but I try really hard not to. Like, I really try not to pressure people into... I try not to pressure people into anything, honestly. I hate it because I hate when people pressure me. But I think this is one probably everyone does. You know, like, this is one that I feel I'm probably more of a victim of than a perpetrator of. Because people constantly pressure me to get me to do something or change the way I feel about something. And I'm like, no, this, you know, like I said, I can't, I'm not going to. And that's why I used to beat myself up so much and still do to some extent over decisions because people would keep pressuring you know, like you'd hear just go for a little bit. And I know for a fact you've gone through that too for family things, just the same as I have. You know, it's like, well, you got to go for a little bit.
Yes, I have.
And it's like, I don't want to. Like, well, come on, you know, and pressure, guilt,
right.
You know. So, yeah, that one's one that, yeah, like I said, I think many people are guilty of that. It basically, like, it's almost like, you know, if you've ever given anyone a guilt trip, you're guilty of this one. You know, and I think pretty much everybody's given somebody a guilt trip, whether they've meant to or not. You know,
absolutely,
it's an easy trick. You know. The next one is global labeling, making broad judgment based on very little evidence. Boy,
didn't we kind of talk about that one already?
Yeah, overgeneralization and this one overlap pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
The next one is blaming. The belief that when bad things happen, they are someone's fault, either yours or someone else's. That one we kind of talked about a little bit too. But this one, the only place I'd say this one you could go a little deeper comes to blaming everybody else for your problems. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't get the job because this person did this. This person did this. Well, I know I did my job. You know, like kind of a thing. And it's like, again, it's like, did you though? Are you sure your attitude isn't the reason that, because you're really firing off an attitude at me right now. Like, are you sure this attitude isn't what kept you from the job? You know, or,
sure,
you know, whatever. Again, it's, you know, I've seen it with like comic book artists even, you know, like, oh, well, they did this, so they got the, and it's like, really? Like, you do realize that they put in years of work. They did, you know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of like that perception of you're so lucky, and it's like, no, they put their nose to the grindstone. They did the work, you know, and when you do the work, things come your way, you know, kind of a deal. Like I've said, what was it, last week or the week before? I've learned over the last few years especially that just sitting there waiting for things to happen, nothing happens. It's amazing how that is. When you, you know, when you don't exert any energy to the universe, nothing comes back. Like I'm using a law of physics essentially as an example here. Now, if I put something out there, something's going to happen. Good, bad, indifferent, you know, so whatever.
Got to have an action to get an equal and opposite reaction.
Yes. So the next one is shoulds. And this one is one that I'm guilty of. Should've, would've, could've, those ones. Mm-hmm. This entails operating from a rigid set of indisputable rules about how everyone, including yourself, should act. When others disobey your shoulds, you feel angry, and if you disobey them, you feel guilty. This is one I used to be way worse about. Because it's the idea of projecting your ethical set onto someone else. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm using that as an example. That's not the exact definition. But if you expect everyone to behave the way you do, then they don't. You get disappointed and judgmental. And well, they should have done this.
Right.
Well, you know what I would have done? You know, and you do that.
If they would have listened to me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. You know, should have listened to me. I told you so. You know. And this will feed into the next one especially. But anyway, like I said, this one is one that I've dealt with a lot. And I've tried really hard. This one's one that I think I've gotten a lot better about. Like, that I've really cut this one down. Because if I say the should've, would've, usually it's like I'll be watching TV and I'll be like, well, they should have done this. Like, I'll watch Wheel of Fortune or something. You know,
right.
like they should have went for, you know, I don't think I apply it as much to real life as I do just, you know, at a TV that no one will ever hear me.
Sure, I can see that.
The next one, this is the one that me and many, 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 many people are guilty of. Being right. Continually needing to justify your point of view or way of behaving, making it impossible to really listen when someone offers a new perspective or conflicting point of view. The second half, I will listen to people's points of view, but I still want them to come around. Like, especially if it's something I'm, like, morally opposed to. I will fight and fight and fight and fight. Or the other part of that is if I don't understand.
I want them to acknowledge. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and if I don't understand their point of view, like, it doesn't make what I would call logical sense. It bugs me to no end. I have to know why, and I know I've been awful about that over the years. So
me too. My big thing is I need people to recognize that my actions, even if I'd made the wrong choice, they understand that it was not a not thought out choice.
Right.
It's like I want people to understand my thought process.
Yes.
Like, please tell me where I went wrong. I have no problems if you tell me when I went wrong. But I need you to understand this is my thought process. What's wrong with the thought process?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, for some reason, I'm just obsessed with that.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. Part of the reason I used to be way worse at this one is that politics used to enter the equation. Whereas now it's no secret. I used to be very much, you know, left-leaning. And now I'm still left-leaning, but I'm less left-leaning. Like, I won't call myself a Democrat. How's that? I also will never. I won't call myself a Republican. I'm not any political party. I am not. I lean left, but I hate all of it. So I don't want to be a part of any of it, kind of a thing. Whereas it used to be, I would be like, "How can you vote that way? What are you, stupid?" and blah blah. And when I realized that I was just the left counterpart for a friend of ours that drives me crazy, that's the right side, I stopped doing that. Because I realized, first of all, how futile it is. Second of all, whatever. You can be involved in politics all you want to, but honestly, it's almost ridiculous to be incredibly passionate about it. And I don't want to sound like a jerk about that, but if you have to keep pushing that you're right on somebody, just at some point, stop being a jerk and just understand they don't want to hear it. That they are going to do what they want to do. And if you don't believe me, go read some Facebook comments. People don't change their opinions easily. They watch the news channels that agree with what they do. They read the newspapers that agree with their side of things. They look at websites that agree. Most people don't seek out, and again, look it up. There's science behind it. Most people don't look up opposing points of view. Those that do, amen to you. But most don't. So why are we getting into these arguments? Why are we letting that divide us? That's all I'm going to say.
That's a very good point.
That's it. And like I said, I know plenty of people that are passionate about politics. That's fine if you want to be. It's not for me anymore because I obsess on it. I obsess on being right. I'm proving it right. I'm showing you how wrong you are about your political stance, and it's stupid. It's no different than being a grammar Nazi or, you know what I mean? It's all the same thing. Okay, great, you're right. Oh, look, there's your oh, wait, there's no trophy for it.
Right. No, you're absolutely right.
Oh, I know I am. No. That's all I wanted to hear. No. Do you have anything to add to that one, or else should I move on?
Nope, I think that one's good.
Okay. The last one on here is heaven's reward fallacy. The martyr's fallacy. You believe that if you always do the right thing, you will eventually be rewarded, even if doing the right thing means ignoring your own needs.
Oh, that was me in high school.
Yeah. Do you know what this is?
My motto.
This is also nice guy syndrome.
Yes, it is.
That if I'm the nice guy and I'm always there and treat her right, eventually she'll give me that shot.
Yup, you're 100% right.
I'll get rewarded for being a nice guy. Don't get me wrong, you should be a nice guy, but,
right.
That it's the same mindset. Yeah, like you can allow somebody to make fun of you, put you down and all this, but it's like, hey, I need my books carried. Okay,
Right. Exactly. You kind of have to put a line. I mean, my motto in high school is if I'm nice and happy to everybody, then everyone will like me.
Yeah. Didn't work, did it?
Nope.
Yeah.
Didn't work.
Crazy how that is, eh?
Yeah, and it was really difficult to accept that I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was really right in that.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, all of my, if I'm the nice guy mentality, I'll get my shot down the road, has worked for me all of 0 times. Being a nice guy can, may have helped me at times, but that mentality of I will get my due, like karma's going to pay me back, yeah, not so much.
Mm-hmm. Nope, not so much. You got to do it because you want to do it, not because you expect anything.
Exactly. Yeah, that's actually, that's a great point right there. You shouldn't do things because you expect things in return. It's not a good reason to be nice. But yeah, this martyr mentality, you do see this a lot too. That a lot of people will do that. That they just think that if they keep putting that good energy out there, and for some people it does. But I think it actually shows how much of a dice roll it is, because there are a lot of people out there that put good out. That's all they do. Just keep putting good out there. And they seem to get rewarded. Whether it's by whatever it is. I don't even want to say rewarded. But they seem to have, sometimes, if you want to call it luck or whatever, sometimes it snaps their way. But I've also seen people who put good out there all the time. And not so much with the cosmic reward,
Right.
Like I said, my mom is maybe the most selfless person I've ever met in my life, and yeah, she's gone through a lot of shit. Sorry for the language, but whatever. But if you ask her, she'll tell you she's happy. So in the end, she wins.
As long as you're happy, it's a win.
Yep. But she's not doing it with if I put good out, I get good back. She's just putting good out there to put good out there. So I said, it's, I quit believing in karma a long time ago. I used to, and I pretty much quit because I just see too many examples of when it doesn't work.
True.
So, but yeah, that's 15 of them there. Like I said, I've got another sheet we can go into some other time. But, yeah, that was the last one.
I think these are very fascinating. and a lot that people can learn, a lot that I can learn from
it.
Yeah,
I really encourage people to look up cognitive distortions or distorted thinking styles online and look at a list of them and seriously take them and people watch a little bit. Like just the people that you work with, that your friends, your family, and it isn't a judging thing. You don't have to point it out to them. Just notice how often you see these things. It's kind of mind blowing how often a lot of times people do this stuff. So,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and you don't even realize you're doing
it. Exactly. Yeah. And again, like me, I've done a lot of these things, and that's where the problem becomes. If you do a few of these, it's normal kind of a thing. But if you do all of these, and the more of them you do, it's kind of like, yeah, this isn't good because, I'm applying. Let's say I do, well, it's a little skewed because 2 or 3 of these do overlap. But let's say you have 10 or 12 that you do on this list. It's like, man, I don't just distort my thinking in 1 or 2 ways. I do it in like 10 or 12 and a combination of some of them. Some become a chain reaction. It's like this just sets you up for these spirals that you go into.
Right. My brain is a fun house full of mirrors.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Absolutely. No, I think these are awesome things to think about and really apply different ways of looking at them, because we all do those. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Spot on with that.
And also,
fascinating.
Like if you're looking these up, I also highly encourage you to look up, I've got one of the sheets that I have here actually also tells you a way to change them. And maybe I should have used that one instead. I didn't realize that until just now. But look up ways to change them because you'll see that it makes you more aware of. It's like when we talked about word choices. Like really, this makes you aware of your thinking habits. And like I said, this is what really woke me up when it came to the whole like, wow, I've considered myself a logical person, but when I apply this to how I look at things, I realize that I am not. I make more decisions based on fears than I do anything. And that's no bueno, No,
that's no good at all.
Yeah, it's that needs to be fixed. That's where a huge chunk of my problem is, So there you go.
But one step at a time. I mean, that's all you can do.
Yep.
And knowing is half the battle.
That's what G.I. Joe told me. Yep.
Real American hero. No. But I think we're about time, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, this was really interesting, and I can't wait to spend some more time just kind of thinking on these and even paying attention to those around me and kind of seeing them more in practice.
And I'll tell you, the ones that'll blow your mind the most are the people you don't think would do this. Like the ones who seem like they have all their stuff together, and you start going, huh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Absolutely. I'm absolutely sure.
Yeah.
So that's going to be really cool. So, folks, if you want to continue the conversation with me, look me up on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. You can also find us at the Crazy Life Podcast at Outlook.com. You can also reach us through the crazylifepodcast.weebly.com. So it's email, and that's our website, and then my Twitter handle. And Brian, how about you? How can they reach you?
You can also reach the show at the Crazy Life Pod on Twitter. You can reach me on Twitter at Stunami. And if you want to find my other podcast, the Salty Language, it's salty_language on Twitter, or saltylanguage.com. Our intro music was provided by our pal Heno, and you can find him on Twitter at IdaHeno. Also, go check out our sister podcast as we're both calling it now. Angela's awesome podcast,
which we will have to get together and do a joint episode
of some sort. Yeah.
Of something. Yeah.
Dang it, there was something else. Check out we're part of the Wicked Radio Network and the Tangent Bound Network. So please go check those out. Oh man, I totally just blanked. I feel like there was another link I was going to mention, and I can't remember what that is. So moving on. If you, boy, I am just a mess right now. I am not breathing well at all at the end of this show. We are not doctors, therapists, trained anything. Just a couple of people, going through our paths, and I'm, just sharing our experiences. If you do need help, please seek out medical help. And again, if money's an issue, please check out like a Department of Human Services or your Board of Mental Health. A lot of areas have Board of Mental Health, and you can. A lot of times, there's programs in place to help people, or point them towards support groups or whatever that that can help you out. And of course, if you're thinking of if you're having really dark thoughts, bad thoughts. Please contact the suicide hotline number, or, as I've not mentioned on here before because I'm silly, go to an emergency room. Or if you can't drive, just call 911 or whatever it is in your area, and tell them you're having a mental health emergency. They will, like that kind of a thing. That, I don't know why I haven't mentioned that to this point. I know that exists, and that there are people who go to the emergency room for mental health emergencies. So please. Mm-hmm. If you need help, no matter what it is, please get it. Try to find a way.
Absolutely. And like I've said before, and I'll keep on saying it, if you have to stop and think before you take your own life, that means you have a choice. Mm-hmm. That means that you don't really want to do that. So, if you have that moment to stop and think, turn the other way, call for help.
Yeah.
Help will be there. So, with that, I guess we're at the end.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, folks, have a fabulous week. Claim your wins and shout them from the mountaintops. And we'll be talking at you next week.
Hi, this is Mark. Congratulations. You have found this amazingly awesome show. Chances are you're listening to it right now on whether it's iTunes or Stitcher Radio or some other mobile app that allows you to stream this amazingly awesome show to your ear holes. And I can't stress how awesomely amazing this show really is. But did you know that you can also catch the latest episode of this show on the Tangibound Network? That's right. Go check out tangiboundnetwork.com. You can look them up and you can listen to it right there. It's even mobile friendly. What more could you ask for? Which means you can pull it up on your iPhone or your Android, even your Windows phone. Yeah, who has one of those? But still, point remains, you can do it. You can do it. Check it out, tangiboundnetwork.com. Listen to this show, the latest episode, every time. Check it out.
Welcome to the Wicked Radio Network.